Everyone said the Indiana Fever had no chance. ESPN analysts wrote them off, oddsmakers laughed, and the Las Vegas Aces expected nothing less than a sweep. On the very night A'ja Wilson was crowned MVP in front of a roaring Vegas crowd, the defending champions were supposed to cruise. But sports love rewriting scripts, and that night, the Fever tore up every prediction. Against all odds, a team missing 6 players walked into Vegas and stunned the world with an 89-73 win in Game 1 of the semifinals. The story was supposed to be about celebration. Wilson lifting her trophy, banners waving, the Aces flexing their dynasty credentials. Indiana wasn't even meant to be part of the conversation. With Caitlin Clark sidelined, Sophie Cunningham out, Sydney Colson unavailable, Khloe Bby, Aari McDonald, and Damaris Dantas missing, the Fever looked less like a playoff squad and more like a patchwork group of survivors. They were being called lucky to even be standing there, written off as a placeholder opponent. But instead of folding, they turned that disrespect into fuel, and their coach Stephanie White made sure belief was stronger than doubt. From the opening tip, the atmosphere was thick with expectation. Vegas was bracing for a party, not a fight. But what unfolded was far from a coronation. Indiana came in with grit, urgency, and a refusal to play the role of background actors. And at the heart of it all was Kelsey Mitchell, a guard often respected but rarely celebrated, stepping into the spotlight and turning the game into her masterpiece. Mitchell scored in every possible way: pull-up jumpers, deep threes, fearless drives, and perfect free throws. By the end of the night, she had dropped 34 points on 12 for 23 shooting, going 4 for 6 from beyond the arc and 6 for 6 from the line. It wasn't just efficient, it was historic. No Fever player had scored that many in a playoff game in over a decade, and no one in WNBA history had ever scored more in their very first semifinal appearance. On the night Wilson was crowned MVP, it was Mitchell who stole the show. Caitlin Clark, watching from the sidelines, summed it up in 2 words on social media: Kelsey unreal. But Mitchell's heroics were only part of the upset. Aaliyah Boston took on the near-impossible task of guarding Wilson and refused to back down. Wilson still posted 16 points and 13 rebounds, but every shot was a grind. Boston made her uncomfortable, forced her into tough looks, and kept the Aces from finding their usual rhythm. Lexi Hull shadowed Jackie Young, never giving her space, while also hitting clutch threes to keep momentum alive. Odyssey Sims attacked the rim with relentless energy, pushing the tempo and forcing Vegas into foul trouble. Natasha Howard battled on the boards, Brianna Turner altered shots inside, and collectively the Fever flipped the paint battle, outscoring the Aces 50-38, where they were supposed to get bullied. By the time the final buzzer sounded, the Aces weren't celebrating, they were searching for answers. Even Becky Hammon admitted afterward, "We had no answer for Mitchell." Couldn't even attempt to slow her down. For a team that prides itself on adjustments and championship pedigree, that acknowledgement was rare and telling. Indiana hadn't just won with hot shooting. They had carved out a blueprint: defense, tempo, resilience. This victory wasn't just about one game. It was about identity. The Fever showed that even with half their roster missing, belief and execution could overwhelm talent and expectation. They didn't just escape embarrassment, they made a statement. That night, Indiana didn't look like a team hanging on by a thread. They looked like a squad ready to write its own history. But this is the playoffs, and one upset doesn't end the story. The Aces are champions for a reason. Teams that drop Game 1 still win series 28% of the time, and Vegas has the experience to adjust overnight. Wilson will come hunting for redemption. Jackie Young will look to break free from Hull's defense, and Hammon won't let her team come out flat twice. Game 2 is now set up as a collision, with Vegas desperate to respond and Indiana staring at the biggest opportunity of their season. Win again and they go home up 2-0, with a chance to close it out in front of their own fans. Lose and momentum resets. For Indiana, the question shifts from whether they can shock the world once to whether they can handle being in control. Mitchell will be the focus of every defensive scheme. Boston will be asked to frustrate Wilson again. The wings will need to fight, the bench will need to deliver, and the mindset has to remain unshaken. Stephanie White reminded everyone after Game 1, "We take it one day at a time. We keep the main thing the main thing." That attitude carried them through injuries, through being written off, and through every doubter. Now it will be tested again. What happened in Vegas wasn't luck. It was a glimpse of what this Fever team can be: resilient, fearless, and united by the belief that "we over me" is more than just a slogan. Game 1 wasn't just a playoff win, It was a turning point, a moment that could spark a finals run. And as the Aces regroup, the question is no longer whether Indiana belongs. It's whether the champions can stop them from turning one upset into history. So what do you think? Was this just a one-night shocker, or are the Indiana Fever built to actually dethrone the champs? Let us know in the comments. Hit that like button if you're fired up, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because if Game 1 proved anything, it's that this series is far from over.